Super Mario Bros. Wonder has so many different levels, both hard and easy, but some of the most unique levels that are in this game are the badge challenges, in which you play through the level in order to either gain a badge at the end of the level or a new mechanic you probably didn't know about that is linked to a specific badge. So in this video, we're going to be ranking the top 10 hardest badge challenges in this game, as these levels get a reputation of being relatively easy, but in reality, they're some of the hardest levels in this entire game, especially the last one. So now with the intro out of the way, let's get into number 10 on this list, which is the Jet Run 1 badge challenge, which requires you to, of course, use the Jet Run badge, which makes your character run endlessly, but the biggest challenge in specific is getting a hang of the timing so you know when to jump in order to make all the jumps and collect all the coins. Yes, the game does give you lines to guide you to when your character is meant to drop so you can get a feel of the timing, but when you're playing it for the first time, it's usually pretty difficult to get a hang of, and you're probably going to be playing the level multiple times to complete this level in its entirety. The level as a whole isn't the hardest in the world, which is why it's at number 10 on this list and not higher, but compared to the other challenges in this game, it's most deserving of being number 10. Next up at number 9 is the Crouching High Jump 2 badge challenge, in which it only really gets difficult later in the level, as the beginning is pretty easy as it's easing you into the mechanic, but once you get into the sliding section, it gets sort of difficult as the game requires you to slide under the walls while crouching in order to make the jumps necessary to move on in the level, which isn't terribly difficult, but some of the more harder mechanics that is asked to be within these badge challenges. There's also the danger of the falling platforms and not reaching the top of the flagpole if you don't make the slide fully, or if you fall too low because of the platform. But as a whole, it isn't that big of a deal, which is why it's at number 9, but it does take a little bit of skill to actually get through it regardless. Number in this list is the Floating High Jump 2 badge challenge, which is where things start to get much harder, and is where the game stops holding your hand through these challenges, as this level requires a lot of jump timing and actually using the jump spin, which keeps you in the air for longer, even though the badge is meant to keep you in the air longer anyways. But the hardest part of this challenge is the moving platform section, in which you really don't get any time and space to prepare your jump, in which you're essentially jumping without any run up, which is necessary to actually jump over bigger and longer obstacles. But as well, you have to actually catch the platform on your way down as it moves to the right, which is also really difficult without any time to prepare your jump. But I think overall, this is one of the more harder challenges to get done on your first run through, but as you get used to the mechanics, it shouldn't be that difficult in the long run. But next up at number 7 is the Invisibility Badge 2 challenge, which deals with the player being completely invisible, only being able to track based on the wind that appears behind your jumps and if you spin while in midair. The hardest thing about this level is the fact that the entire level is based off the bouncy platforms, and there's an entire section dedicated to moving platforms as well. This makes it really easy to fall off, especially during the moving sections, but I think it's also pretty hard to defeat the Lakitu because of the invisibility and the fact that the Lakitu is such a small enemy, and it's really hard to track your character movement, so it's really easy to either take damage or die in this part. But in general, this should take 2 or 3 tries in order to get used to it, especially if you use your spins in midair, which makes it much easier to track your jumps. This is up there with some of the harder badge challenges in the game, but as you can tell with this list, it isn't the hardest thing in the world. The Dolphin Kick 2 badge challenge is number 6 on this list, mainly because of how difficult it is to collect the first purple coin in this level, as the walls are just moving so fast that it's just so difficult to catch the timing. It wasn't until I was watching gameplay back on this level for this video is when I realized there's a gap in between the coins so that you don't die. But when I was playing it for the first time, I didn't realize this at all, and it was probably the same situation for some of you guys as well. The rest of the level is pretty easy, but this one section just pissed me off so much the first time I played it and resulted in several deaths, so that's why it's this high up on the list. Next up at number 5 is the Jet Run 2 badge challenge, which offers a significantly harder challenge than its counterpart early on in the game, where this time it doesn't have any lines to guide you for when to jump or how long you stay in midair for. It's all a feeling out process at this point, which is pretty difficult the first few times around because it took me a couple tries to get used to before I got a hang of it. I think the hardest part of this challenge is when you have to turn around after jumping, especially in the rising lava section, as you have to move as fast as you can before you get caught by the lava. And the section before this, which makes it easy to fall and miss the jump, because most of the jumps in this level requires a max range jump, which means you need to reach the end of the floating run right before you're about to fall. So that's why it's this high on this list, because it definitely wasn't easy the first time I played it through. But sitting at number 4 is the controversial Parachute Cap 2 badge challenge, which many of you may think was easy when you played it the first time, but when I played it, it was one of the hardest ones in the game. This is mainly because I didn't understand that I had to float down instead of dropping the first few times I tried it, and also because I just kept taking damage when moving through the piranha plants, which just led me to start intentionally taking damage to get through the sections rather than just floating through it. And we can't forget trying to get the top of the flagpole as well, with collecting the last 10 coins, which was literally impossible until I found this clip you're seeing right now that does it like it's nothing, which was so surprising for me because I literally could not do it no matter how much I tried. But I guess that's what I get for being subpar at a Mario game. But now it's time for the top 3. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you guys to take this time to subscribe to the channel if you made this far into the video, and if you're liking the video so far, because all my videos have this kind of style to them. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell if you're enjoying yourself. But now with the ad read out of the way, let's get into into the final 3, starting with number 3 on this list, which is the Wall Climb Jump 2 badge challenge, which in my opinion is one of the hardest badge challenges in this game, which is why it's this high up on this list, because in this you're basically climbing on a mountain in a sense, and if you end up failing a jump, you fall all the way back down to the bottom unless you catch yourself on the way down on one of the platforms. But this level is all the way up on this list specifically for the rotating platform section because of how difficult it is, and the fact if you fall, you go all the way back to the checkpoint platform. The reason this section is so hard is because of how small the tip of these platforms are, and the fact that you have to stand on them before you're able to actually get to the next platform. And it being so small just increases the difficulty of actually standing on them. And as a plus, the rotating platforms aren't all the same, so you may get an unexpected surprise when you try to jump on the platform one way only for it to rotate the other way. But I think that I've captured everything that's really difficult about this level, because honestly when I first played it, it took a little longer to complete this one than other ones. But next one, number 2, is the Spring Feet 2 badge challenge, and this is really hard for obvious reasons, which is why this part's kind of short, which is that you can't stop jumping, of course, and the platforms that you platform on in this level are relatively small and very spaced out, which makes it so much easier to die, especially the last section with the really small platforms to get to the flagpole. It isn't that big of a deal if you take your time, but it's really easy to miss if you're not careful. I know this part was pretty short, but the level is super hard. And finally, sitting at the number 1 position in the top 10 hardest badge challenges in Super Mario Bros. Wonder is obviously the final level in the entire game, which is the final test badge marathon, which makes you go through trial-like levels with the use of every single badge in the game all under one level. And with the reputation of it being the hardest and final level you unlock in the game, you can guess that it's going to be the hardest badge challenge as well. I think the hardest sections have to be the Spring Feet and the Invisibility badges because of how hard it is to time the fire bars in the Spring Feet section, and because of how impossible the final section of the Invisibility badges. The game literally makes you platform on a moving loop that bursts to the right every time you jump on it, and on top of that you have to platform on multiple other bloops to make it to the final platform, which is completely insane. And this is all while invisible, by the way. Getting the flagpole isn't that big of a deal, but in my opinion and Nintendo's opinion, this level is the hardest level and hardest badge challenge in all of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is why it's deserving of the number 1 position on this list. But with the final level done and listed, we have now reached the end of the video. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and let me know down below in the comments what your list of the badge challenges are, and let me know what the hardest challenge is in your opinion, and if you disagree with mine. Click on the Wonder Seed to check out another video on my channel, because I make pretty high quality videos, not to toot my own horn, but you might find something here you enjoy, so check it out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!